Donald Smith is somebody that has been preying on society for a long time. He has a long record of doing that.
Guilty. That word resounded over and over through the courtroom this afternoon. Donald Smith has been convicted of raping and murdering 8-year-old Cherish Perrywinkle years ago. The little girl's mother openly sobbing today as the verdict was read. This decision still not able to bring back her little girl. We have team coverage for you tonight. First Coast News' Ann Schindler and Ken Amaro have more on the proceedings. Let's start with Ann.
It was a crime that horrified the community, and to this day prompts angry reactions from anybody that you talk to about it, including people that I spoke to in the courthouse. Now, the difference for the jurors in this case is they were actually required to look at photographs of the 8-year-old victim in this case, autopsy photos and crime scene photos alike, and it caused intense reactions in them as they looked at it. Several wept, a number of them cried openly in court. And when they were going into their deliberations, the prosecutor in this case, Mark Khalil, told them not to be governed by anger. He had some advice for them about how to conduct their deliberations.
That if you have anger inside of you, it's not because of what I said or what Ms. Nelson said. It's because of what you saw. It's because of what he did.
So the big surprise today, Donald Smith choosing to waive his closing argument. This comes after yesterday when they chose to rest their case without calling a single witness. So the penalty phase begins next week. We'll pick that up on Tuesday because courts closed on Monday. The Duval County Courthouse, Ann Schindler, First Coast News, on your side.
Going into the trial, the prosecution made it clear that it was not going to waive the death penalty, and legal experts told me that is what directed the defense position in this trial. It made it seem like the trial would be handled in two phases. Phase one, dealing with the actual charges. Phase two, dealing with the prison sentence if its client was found guilty. And in fact, Donald Smith was found guilty in record time. As the verdict was being read, Smith appeared to nod his head in agreement. Now, his legal team never raised a defense. Why? Well, according to defense attorney Janet Johnson, who doesn't know all of the facts, but said generally speaking, when the evidence is strong and the probability of a conviction is very high, as in this case, the defense will most likely place most of its focus on keeping its client off of death row. Smith's sentencing phase begins next week, and Johnson says its strategy is very obvious. While it was difficult to overcome the evidence against him, the defense might be able to present an argument for a life sentence instead of death.
All right, find him guilty, but now the effort is in the sentencing.
What do you mean?
Well, she may be trying to save his life. She may be trying to say, look, we're just hoping that he gets life in prison. And, we'll argue that at the sentencing portion. That's obviously what Ms. Schlax is trying to get out of this. Her client may say, I don't want you arguing for my life, but she has an obligation to do that.
In jailhouse conversations, Smith said he would prefer to be on death row so he can be in isolation and not a life sentence so he can be in the general population. His sentencing phase, again, begins next week. At the Duval County Courthouse, Ken Amaro, First Coast News, on your side.
Ken and Ann, thank you. And you can read more about this case on firstcoastnews.com. We have information about the history of the case and a look at the situation surrounding Cherish Perrywinkle's murder.